Hi guys, I have so much to go over. Lots happened this past week, but the first thing I want to address is this fake Liz Crokin account on Twitter. As most of you know, I was kicked off Twitter a year ago. My account had just reached over 100,000 followers, and when I was kicked off Twitter, Twitter offered me no explanation as to why I was kicked off. Most people who are kicked off Twitter, or everyone from what I'm hearing and I've heard, is offered an explanation as to why they're kicked off. Twitter usually lets that person know what tweet it was that got them kicked off and how that tweet violated their rules. That never happened with me. I was kicked off, offered no explanation, end of story. Immediately after I was kicked off, someone opened a fake Liz Crokin account. That Twitter handle is at Liz_CROKIN. So Twitter took away my voice, and then for the past year has allowed somebody to assume my identity and post tweets that I'd never write. Post tweets that make me look ridiculous, and they've led thousands of people to believe this is me. This person has been reported probably hundreds of times that this is a fake account. I have never had anything to do with this account. I've never approved this account. I've never sanctioned this account. Nothing. And so you see what they've done here. They have taken away my voice, and then they allow someone to steal my identity to mislead my followers. That's what they've done with me. This person has never said on their profile that this is a parody account. It doesn't say that it's not Liz Crokin. And after I addressed this issue this week, a year later, they did write, this isn't the real Liz Crokin in a tweet. It still doesn't say it at the top on their bio. They won't take that account down. It's very frustrating. And this is going to be a legal issue, and my lawyer's looking into it. And so just so you know, I am not on Twitter. That is not my account. Please do not follow it, and please let people know. And if you are able to report that account, I would really appreciate that. And you can DM me in Facebook or on Instagram. If you do report it, please take a screenshot of it, because I'm collecting all of the evidence. And it's really frustrating because my voice was taken off Twitter, but this imposter has allowed to pretend to be me. And this person posts stuff that I would never post. They make me look ridiculous. It's very frustrating. And whoever opened this account, if you think that I'm not going to take legal action, if you think that I'm not the kind of person that is going to take legal action for assuming my identity for a year, you have something else coming to you. So you better watch out. I do not shy away from a lawsuit. And if people only knew how I've spent my week. Sorry guys. It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating that AI was taken off Twitter and that this asshole has assumed my identity for a year and Twitter won't do anything about it. And the reason why this has come to light again is because good old Chrissy Teigen, I'm sure as most of you know, she had a crazy rant that's still ongoing to this day, but she had a crazy rant this week trashing Q and bringing up Pizzagate, and then my name got involved. And at one point she tweeted her 11.8 million followers screenshots of this fake Twitter account, or an actual tweet from this fake Twitter account, which leads people to believe that it's me. And Chrissy knows that I'm not on Twitter. She's the one that got me unverified before I was kicked off Twitter, and she knows I'm just on Instagram. So she knows that that's my account, and this fake person, whoever this person is, I don't know who's running it, is misleading people to believe that's me. And then we have Chrissy Teigen promoting this account and leading her followers to believe that's my account. It's not. It's not my account. Okay? So on the record, I'm saying it's not my account. And this is already a legal matter, and it will continue to be a legal matter, and I don't shy away from lawsuits because I have nothing to hide. And let me just tell you, my legal track record is very successful. So let the world beware. Okay, so let's talk about Chrissy Teigen and John Legend. I don't want to spend too much time on them, but she had her rant trashing the Q community and bringing up Pizzagate that went on for days, and I think it's still going on today. For those of you that don't know what happened, let me just recap the whole situation that happened with my Twitter feed with Chrissy when I was back on Twitter. This goes back 2 years ago from 2017. So what happened is Q first popped up in October, and then Q, I believe, posted something about planes being turned around. And during that time period, Chrissy Teigen and John Legend were on a plane that got turned around. The plane flew out of LAX, and I believe it was heading to Asia. And when it was turned around, it was already well into the flight. So that within itself was really suspicious. It's not like this plane ran out of gas and stopped in Hawaii. It turned around, landed back at LAX as far as I can remember, and they evacuated the whole plane. Chrissy went on social media, and I believe it was Snapchat, and she started doing videos talking about how her plane was turned around. And at some point, she said something along the lines that she was being detained. Her and John were being detained. And I believe that she said that they had let everyone else from the plane. She said that they allowed everyone else from the plane to go home, and her and John were still under interrogation or being questioned or something. So after Q had dropped and talked about planes being turned around, and then the fact that she was on a plane that got turned around, and the investigators, based off of what she said, seemed only interested in her and John, that had all my red flags going. So I started looking into her, and I never really had looked into her deeply before. But I went on her social media, and I immediately found tons of Illuminati symbolism, satanic symbolism, and images that we know are pedophile symbols. All right? So all I did was post a tweet with screenshots of some of the symbolism, and I said Chrissy Teigen posted, a picture of her kid dressed up as a hot dog, and note there's a pizza emoji, and she also had a picture of her child dressed up as Alice in Wonderland, and there was a few others. And all I wrote is that she had posted these images, and I described the images, and then I think I did a hashtag QAnon. That was it. And a few weeks later, I started getting all these messages from people telling me that Chrissy Teigen was attacking me on Twitter. So Chrissy turned around weeks later and retweeted my tweet with a comment on top of it and said, I'm pretty sure this person is saying that I'm in the elite pedophile ring in Hollywood. And then she was complaining about how, I'm a journalist, and, I shouldn't have a blue check mark, and it should be unverified, and blah, 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 blah. And then Chelsea Clinton got involved, of course, and then the verified Church of Satan Twitter handle got involved, and they both ran to Chrissy's defense, of course, and it was like this whole thing. And so she managed to get me unverified from Twitter at that point. But while all this was happening, all these anons were coming to my defense, and as she was going after me, they were posting all of these old tweets where she had tweeted about pedophilia, and she had made jokes about child rape. So as she was attacking me, all these anons went to bat for me, and they were exposing her, and they had already had tweets available that seemed at the ready when she started attacking me. So I think that they actually knew that this attack was going to happen. So So anyways, so fast forward to this week, she starts complaining about she used to have a normal life and now she can't go anywhere without people thinking that she's in some pedophile ring that's about to be exposed. No, honey, it's not about to be exposed. It actually is being exposed, and it has been being exposed since President Trump got into office. Maybe you should watch my videos and you would know that. But yeah, she's complaining that she can't have a normal life because, you know, people think that she's in this pedophile ring and blah, 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 blah. Well, the irony of this is the day that she started her Twitter rant, earlier that day, People Magazine had posted a story about her and her new show, talking about how she went on the record and said that she would eat human flesh. Let me find the story. Okay, people.com. Chrissy Teigen admits she would eat a human on David Chang's Netflix show. So just think about the irony of that. The day this story comes out, she complains about people thinking that she's in the satanic elite pedophile cult, and we know that that cult engages in cannibalism. So it's like, you know what? If you don't want people to think that you're in this cult, then maybe don't go on the record and say that you would eat a human. Maybe don't tweet about child rape in a laughing matter. Maybe don't hang out with child sex traffickers like Charles Wade and the Clintons and rapists like Harvey Weinstein and Kevin Spacey and Satanists like Marina Abramovic. I could go on and on and on. And I don't want to spend my whole video talking about Chrissy Teigen. But, you know, this is someone that has a history of joking about child rape, promoting child rape. You can go online and you can type in her name and Pizzagate. You can still find screenshots of the tweets that I do believe that she deleted. You know, after she attacked me on Twitter, all the Anons started exposing her and posting pictures of her old tweets. She ended up having to lock her account for a few days, and I believe that she deleted a lot of those incriminating tweets. So anyways, for those of you that didn't know this, that's the background between myself and Chrissy Teigen and our little Twitter feud. And when that went down, John Legend also chimed in. This is back in 2017, and said, and threatened to sue me. And they never sued me. They never sent me a legal letter. And this week she claimed that she's not suing anyone because, you know, she doesn't have to defend herself. I don't know. But the bottom line is that people that have nothing to hide don't shy away from lawsuits. That's why I don't shy away from lawsuits. That's why I'll be taking legal action against Twitter and people that are pretending to be me and assume my identity. I have nothing to hide. I'm not afraid of discovery. People that have something to hide shy away from lawsuits, and they're afraid of discovery. So that's that. She also mentioned that she has a picture of me in her garage. Like, creepy. Not sure what that means, but pretty interesting that she has to see my face every single day in her garage. I'd be really interested to know what her and John do in that garage, by the way. Anyways, all right, moving forward. So moving forward, let's talk about Hillary Clinton and these dark web videos that she addressed herself actually this week. All right. So this week, this is a quote from Hillary Clinton. This is what Hillary Clinton said. I think it's going to be the same as 2016. Don't vote for the other guy. You don't like me. Don't vote for the other guy because the other guy is going to do X, Y, and Z. Or the other guy did such terrible things. I'm going to show you in these flashing videos that appear and then disappear, and they're on the dark web and nobody can find them. But you're going to see them, and you're going to see that person doing these horrible things. All right. So that's a quote from Hillary Clinton. Fox News actually ran this week. I've been reporting since 2016 that on Anthony Weiner's laptop, the NYPD found video evidence proving that Hillary Clinton was sexually abusing and torturing a child. All right? The story first broke by True Pundit. General Flynn tweeted that story. Okay? This was back in 2016, and this is before the election, so it's before November last year. I think this was in late October. Okay. I was able to verify that this video exists with my own sources. I know it exists. I did a video on this. I believe the video I did on this was in 2017 or maybe 2018. And I did a video on this Hillary Clinton sex tape. And after I did this video, this was after Q first came out, President Trump retweeted MAGAPill at MAGAPill on Twitter. And when he retweeted at MAGAPill on Twitter, my video talking about the Hillary Clinton sex tape where she's hurting a child was his pinned tweet. I believe that President Trump knew that my video was his pinned tweet when he retweeted MAGAPill. So I believe, and this is just my opinion, I don't know this as a fact, but knowing how President Trump operates, I believe that he retweeted MAGAPill because MAGAPill wrote this great article about who Q is. So he wanted to draw attention to Q. But I also believe that President Trump retweeted MAGAPill because he also wanted to start dropping tiny red pills about the existence of this Hillary Clinton tape. And if this tape wasn't real and if it didn't exist, I don't believe that President Trump would be retweeting an account that had my video saying that this video does exist as his pinned tweets. Okay, so let's fast forward to what happened earlier this week. I'm sorry, it was last week. October 16th, 2019. Okay. Donald Trump tweeted this. What has happened here with the Anthony Weiner laptop, the server, all the emails between Huma Abedin and Hillary Clinton, the deleted Clinton emails, what is going on? And that's a quote at Lou Dobbs, Joe D, and Victoria T. Okay, so that's what Donald Trump tweeted on October 16th. So he is strategically drawing attention to Weiner's laptop. Weiner's laptop has the video. The NYPD found the video on Weiner's laptop in 2016 in a file called life insurance, all right? So President Trump draws attention to this. October 16th, 2019, and then remember, back in 2017 or 2018, I have to go back and look at my records. I think it was 2018 at that time. I did the video talking about the sex tape and how it exists, and then he retweets MAGAPill that has my video as their pinned tweet. Okay, so President Trump tweets this on October 16th, and then we have Hillary Clinton talking about this, I think it was yesterday. All right, Fox News at least covered it yesterday. All right, and then Joe M says, this is what Joe M tweeted about it. Easy to see what this is. Clinton is expressing her fear of footage showing people doing, quote, horrible things being used to discredit Democrat candidates running against Trump. She is setting up the defense that Trump is weaponizing hashtag deep fakes to crush his opposition. And then he wrote hashtag HRC video. Okay, so the fact that she's talking about this is very telling. She knows, obviously, this video exists. She knows the White Hats have this. I believe they probably have many videos of her, not just this one video. This is just the one that I believe was on Anthony Weiner's laptop. I know that there was at least one on his laptop. I imagine there's other videos, probably from Epstein's Island, probably from the underground facility where everyone was stupid enough to bring their phones down there. And we all know our phones record us. And the NSA has it all. And so I imagine that there's more videos of her doing horrible things that exist. Oh, sorry, my computer's timed out. But we know that at least one of these videos came from Anthony Weiner's laptop. I know it, the NYPD knows it, journalists that have been covering this know this, and President Trump is trying to draw attention to this. And he draws attention to it, and right after he draws attention to it, Hillary comes out talking about how these videos that show people doing horrible things are deep fakes. So she's, trying to cast doubt in people's minds already that these videos aren't real. We know they're real. We know they exist. All right. Okay. Going back to General Flynn for 1 second. I believe General Flynn was targeted for many reasons, but I know one of the reasons why he was targeted is because he was exposing Pizzagate. He went on a limb. He tweeted about this video, or not this video, he tweeted the story that talks about the existence of this video. And right after he did this tweet, after Trump got elected, that's when they started going after him. I want to read to you what Sarah Carter tweeted about General Flynn. I think this was today or yesterday. Okay. She wrote, "The tide is turning for Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, and if his attorney has her way, the entire case will be thrown out. It should be. FBI agents manipulated Flynn 302 interview. His case must be dismissed. It was a setup." General Flynn has been a huge threat to the deep state. Exposing Pizzagate is one reason why he was a big threat to the deep state. They set him up. He will be exonerated. I've been saying this for years. But the fact that it's coming out now that he was set up is significant, because the truth about these videos, I believe, are about to come out really soon, which is why President Trump is drawing attention to them, and which is why Hillary Clinton is already planting seeds of doubt about these videos. So all this stuff connects. All this stuff pieces together. All right? Okay. So here's the other thing that happened today, actually. That's really big in terms of Pizzagate. The FBI released classified information, which is now declassified, about the finders. Okay, so you can go on the FBI's Records Vault Twitter handle, and they have the link that has declassified documents on the finders. And this is on the FBI's website, fbi.gov. All right? So let's talk about the finders for a second. The finders were funded by the CIA, and they were involved in kidnapping children, trafficking children, sexually abusing children, conducting experiments on children, and satanic rituals on children. This book, Why Johnny Can't Come Home, kidnapped while delivering newspapers, forced into pornography, prostitution, mind control, and espionage. His mother, Noreen Gosh, wrote this. Okay? This is Pizzagate. I'm looking for the copyright date on this book. Oh, this is a first edition. Okay. November 2000. All right. So this boy was kidnapped, and he was thrown into one of these government-funded child sex trafficking rings. And this is a really deep rabbit hole. But this is a great book, and I highly recommend people to read it, and I need to read it again because I went down this rabbit hole, I think 2 or 3 years ago, and so I actually really do need to brush up on this whole case. But it talks about the Franklin cover-up, it talks about the finders, it talks about Ted Gunderson, who's been exposing a lot of the elite pedophile rings and the child sex trafficking that's tied to the government and the CIA. But let me just read you a little bit from the chapter on the finders, okay? 189. Okay. Okay. Just because I want people to understand what the finders are, and I haven't even had a chance today to look into the declassified material on the finders that the FBI released, but I will be doing that, and I encourage everybody to look into it. But this is Pizzagate. You know, Pizzagate was never about one pizza restaurant and one basement. That's what the mainstream media and the deep state wanted you to believe, so it would sound unbelievable, so you wouldn't believe it. But this is what Pizzagate is really about, and Pizzagate has been going on for a very long time, long before the Podesta emails came out. It was the Podesta emails coming out which brought mass awareness to the realities that our government has been involved in the rape, torture, and trafficking of children for a very long time. So let me read to you just an excerpt from this chapter on the finders in Noreen Gosh's book. The finders are a CIA front established in the 1960s. It has top security clearance and protection in the assigned task of kidnapping and torture programming young children throughout the U.S. Members are specially trained government kidnappers known to be sexual degenerates who involve the kidnapped children in satanic sex orgies and slaughter of animals. They use a fleet of unmarked vans to grab targeted children from parks and schoolyards. In doing so, they use children within their organization as decoys to attract the victims close to the vans, where they are grabbed by the adults. They transport the children to a series safe houses, I think it's meant to say to a series of safe houses to keep them from being found. They are then used in their satanic ceremonies for body parts as sex slaves, and some are auctioned off at various locations in the Northern Hemisphere. In the past, the finders have auctioned off children in a location near Las Vegas, Nevada, and Toronto, Canada. Marion David Petit, the leader of the cult, is an identified homosexual, pedophile, and a CIA officer. His son was an employee of a CIA proprietary firm, Air America, which was notorious for smuggling drugs destined for the U.S. out of the Golden Triangle into Saigon during the Vietnam War. All right. This was published by Ted Gunderson in Media Bypass magazine in February of 2000. And then I just want to read another quote from Ted Gunderson. So he's an agent that did expose the finders, the Franklin cover-up. He also worked on the case with the McMartin preschool, which was in Manhattan Beach, California, where children are being trafficked out of a preschool to elites in the LA area, and they were being trafficked through underground tunnels. And this went to trial, and unfortunately, the owners of the preschool were not convicted because they couldn't find the tunnels at that point in time, and all the children said that they were trafficked through these tunnels. Well, sure enough, years later, they ended up finding the tunnels, which they had covered up. They cemented the tunnels in right before the investigation and before the trial. Just a mess. But anyways, Ted Gunderson did a lot of great work, and I believe he was a great person, and some of his family members follow my work, which is pretty cool. Anyways, let me read this quote from him. Okay. I can state without hesitation that there is indeed a national cult network including satanic, witchcraft, pedophile, and occult groups, which is operating at the full throttle within our society today. The activities of these groups include the kidnapping, molestation, torture, and murder of children. Their favorite victims are children and newborn babies. The younger, the better. We know that to be true. The cult thrives on drug sales, pornography, and prostitution. The cult network is responsible for the recent rash of snuff films, which are sold at high prices to people who crave this sick, degenerate material. Children are kidnapped and literally, quote, owned by the cult and are sold on the open market to the highest bidder. These children are taken right off the streets of our cities and traded through a national pedophile network. Ted L. Gunderson, FBI Special Agent, Los Angeles, retired. So he was retired at the time that he was quoted. Oh, and let me just read this quote from the mother of Johnny Gosch, who was kidnapped and dragged into one of these cults. And that's a whole deep rabbit hole within itself if you want to read about Johnny's story. Obviously, you can read it in this book, but there's also a ton of information online about it. And it goes into the Bohemian Grove and the Franklin cover-up and the White House, and it's just a wealth of information. Anyways, Noreen says, America's Most Wanted was about to air the Johnny Gosch story. I received a call from Paul Sparrow saying the FBI contacted them and told them to kill the Gosch story. In other words, the FBI did not want Johnny's story aired by America's Most Wanted. John Walsh and Paul Sparrow stood up to the FBI and told them they were going ahead with our story no matter what they said or did. The FBI evidently backed down because the show aired in November 1992. The show received more telephone calls from the public than any other show in its history. So that just goes to show you this has been going on for a very long time. And this has been going on by people that have been embedded in our government. And whenever there's been efforts to expose elite pedophile rings, there's always been powerful people that have come down and put a squash on it, whether it is throwing the cases out, silencing whistleblowers, silencing victims, killing witnesses, killing victims. A lot of this stuff has not been able to come out because there's been so many powerful people in positions of power that have prevented this information from coming out, and they've prevented these cases from coming forward. They have silenced the victims, they've stalked victims, they've harassed victims, and we really haven't seen any of this stuff come to light because we've had bad people in positions of power, including all of our presidents except for Reagan and JFK, but I'm talking about presidents that are alive. There isn't one president that wasn't a part of the cabal or controlled by them in my lifetime. I'm 40 years old, until President Trump. So we haven't seen any of this stuff come to light because all the past presidents and many of the people in positions of power were a part of it. And the ones that weren't a part of it, many of those people have been blackmailed, and so they have been part of the cover-up, and they've been part of the effort to cover this up. So, people are constantly asking me, why hasn't this stuff been exposed? Why doesn't this stuff come out? Well, that's why. Now you know. But this stuff has been going on for a very long time, and it's been going on, for years, for decades. And, for me, it was the Podesta emails coming out. That's what made me realize that all this stuff is real, And thanks to President Trump, all these child sex trafficking rings are being broken up. Not only in our country, they're being broken up around the world. And it never would have happened if he didn't get elected. Thank God he got elected. Okay? All right. So, I went to the Trump rally in Dallas. It was amazing. One other thing I want to talk about. So I went to the Trump rally, wore my Q hat. At the Trump rallies, at some of the Trump rallies, people are not allowed to wear their Q gear inside. They were allowed to wear Q gear at one rally, and then after that one rally, I can't remember when this was, maybe last year, people were not allowed into the rallies wearing Q gear, and I was under the impression that they weren't allowed to wear Q gear because bad actors were targeting people wearing Q paraphernalia. But Joe M. did do a thread on this, and maybe I should read it to you guys, talking about why Q is sometimes allowed at rallies and sometimes it's not, and why sometimes it's shown and sometimes it's not shown. So I went to the Dallas rally, I wore my Q hat, and my Q hat made it on Fox News. It was at the end of the rally, and President Trump was leaving the stage, and he was already very close to the exit, and I actually held up my hat because I was just trying to get a picture of my hat with President Trump in the background and the American flag in the background, and I didn't even think that the cameras would still be rolling. And so I held up my hat to get a picture of just get a picture for myself of my hat with the president in the background, and American flag. And the next thing I know, I'm getting these messages that my Q hat was on Fox News Channel, which was a pleasant surprise and pretty amazing. So let me read you Joe M's thread on Q and the presence at rallies. So he wrote, many are curious as to why the restriction over Q insignia at rallies. Well, it's quite clear. Remember, Q is a military operation. Not only are the Q posts themselves strategically controlled in time, so is the visibility and proliferation of the movement itself. Q is designed for patriots to understand and share the drops, but they also want us to create precisely what we have done, a substrata of the media that builds at a steady pace they can control. Our place in the public consciousness is actually being controlled right now. A good example is last year's Tampa rally. We were deliberately allowed in to create the media sensation, but then we were strategically pulled back for subsequent rallies. This video explains that operation. He posted a video underneath that tweet. Because we already know that corrupt media will not ask the Q, patriots are in control of when Q goes mainstream. That they sensationally proved it. Remember? The next morning after Tampa, we got this Q drop. Us being allowed in to create the media storm was a strategic military op. So the next time you get asked to remove your Q insignia, a symbol that expresses only patriotic love of country, remember you have chosen to participate in a strategic military-grade operation of mass public awareness about events to come that will finally unite America. All right? So that tells me that my hat did not pop up on Fox News by accident. That was strategic. I don't know how they do it. Military-grade operation. It just blows my mind what they're capable of. I had no idea the camera was even rolling, and when I held my hat, it was totally spontaneous. But based off of what Joe says, I believe it was strategically put on Fox News, so I don't even know what to say. It's amazing it made Fox News. I wasn't even planning to do that. But I do believe that if my hat didn't get on Fox News that night, there was a plan in place to give the movement exposure that night from things that I was able to see going on the ground at the event. So that's the deal with that. And yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay, this is one of the other thing I wanted to talk about. So at the rally, President Trump pointed out Congressman Louis Gohmert, and when he pointed him out, Representative Gohmert just had run up right next to me. And my girlfriend and I were both wearing Q hats. And earlier in the rally, by the way, President Trump pointed in my friend's direction twice, and he winked. And obviously we want to think that he was winking at us because we were wearing Q hats, but I don't know. He could have been winking at someone else, and he could have been pointing at someone else, but just wanted to note that. He pointed at us twice, and then he winked. We want to believe he was winking at us, but maybe he wasn't. We want to believe he was acknowledging Q. Who knows? But I did think it was interesting that Representative Gohmert walked up right next to me when President Trump pointed him out and started talking about him, because earlier in the evening, I'm pretty sure that the congressman was sitting in a private section. We were standing on the floor, right next to the stage, and he was sitting in a stadium seat, and I believe he was sitting with Ted Cruz and Ivanka Trump. But when President Trump mentioned him, he just popped up next to me, and he wasn't standing next to me before. And I hadn't met him. I had never met him. And I hadn't even seen him at the rally until President Trump started talking about him, and I had no idea at that point in time when he first started talking about him that he was standing right next to me. I was looking all around for him. And then I realized that the person the president was pointing at was standing right next to me, so that was pretty funny. Anyways, so this girl that I was standing next to wanted a picture with the congressman. So I said, sure, I'll take a picture of you with him. And so she gave me her camera, and I'm about to take a picture with them, and Congressman Gomer's, looking at me, and I'm like, oh, this one wants a picture with you. And then he goes, oh, you want to take a picture with me? Great. And she already had kind of put his arm around her, or I'm sorry, she already put her arm around him. So I don't know. I don't know if he misunderstood or what, but he ran up to me and put his arm around me, and then he put his arm around my girlfriend that had the Q hat on too. And then the other girl got in the picture, and we all took a picture together. Okay? My point of telling the story is that he clearly saw our Q hats, and he was very excited to take a picture with us. So I'm not going to draw any conclusions from that. I'm just telling you what happened. But what I will note is that the other day when when members of the GOP in Congress stormed Adam Schiff's private Schiff meeting, he was one of the members that stormed that meeting. And another member of Congress who was part of that group that stormed that meeting was Representative Steve Scalise. Okay, now those of you that are new to my work may not remember this, but when Congressman Steve Scalise was shot in 2000, I believe it was 2017. Yeah, it was 2017. I did a lot of research on him, and I discovered that he was on the front lines exposing the human trafficking. And I put his name into WikiLeaks, and I managed to find that he was in the Podesta emails. And from what I could gather, I believe that John Podesta was zeroing in on him and targeting him. I don't believe that they liked that he was exposing the child sex trafficking. So I have a theory that he was targeted by the deep state because he was exposing child sex trafficking. After he was shot, the House Democrats sent his staff members pizza. And we all know the symbolism of pizza, okay? So, fast forward to this week when Scalise and Gomer and other members of the GOP storm Adam Schiff's, and we know Adam Schiff's involvement in the Standard Hotel and child sex trafficking and the Little Kids Foundation in Haiti. When they stormed his Schiff, what did they bring with them? They brought pizzas. And guess how many pizzas they brought? 17. And we all know that 17 is representative of Q because Q is the 17th letter of the alphabet. So is that Steve Scalise and the GOP members' way of throwing in the cabal's face what they did with Steve Scalise? But is it also them letting them know, hey, we know what you're up to. We know you're involved in child sex trafficking. We know you're involved in Pizzagate. Here's 17 pizzas. Q's coming for you. That's my interpretation of it, but you guys can interpret that move any way you want. All right, that is all I have for today. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And again, if you're following that fake LizCrokin on Twitter, please unfriend that account and let others know that that is not me, and I have not been on Twitter for a year now. And if you have the time to report that fake account, I would really appreciate it. And that's all I got. I hope you guys have a good weekend.